I've been busy. I have been very busy.
BB had to do it to him.
Today is the day. Finally got the coilovers in for the Audi. I'm gonna try and put these on myself. It should be pretty difficult from what I'm seeing from everyone, watching a couple YouTube videos on how to do it. This isn't really gonna be a how-to video, but just maybe a couple things I come across. I have 2 days spaced out for this. I've recruited some help. They all go for about 50 cents an hour. So with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more heads, I'm figuring we can knock this out in say like 2 hours tops. They know what they're doing, I don't. Other than that, let's get into it. Four hours later, 5 hours later, I didn't pick the camera back up. So here's the deal. We got one strut out. All day, got one strut out.
BB had to do it to him.
Another thing I forgot to mention, these bushings up here are tightened in there at ride height. You can take those bolts out, but since there's so much pressure on it at droop, you have to jack it up by the rotor, find the sweet spot, and the bolt will pop right out. But you won't be able to get it out while it's drooping. So I just thought I'd mention that. And the same as when you put it back together. You cannot put it back together and tighten that bolt down while it's drooping. You have to jack it up to ride height and then tighten that bolt. So if you don't, it'll wear out that bushing and then you'll be out however much absurd price Audi wants to charge you to fix it unless you do it yourself. So this little tip, do not forget to do that because you can really screw up those bushings if you don't pay attention.
BB had to do it to him.
All right, day 2, both of the front struts are out. The key to getting it out was definitely the spring compressor that I rented from O'Reilly's. Helped me squeeze that to get this just enough to get out of that front little wishbone hook thing. So with both of those out, we're now ready to take them apart and put the new one in. But before that, we are gonna do some riding for a little bit. side is complete, all together, wrapped up in there. Something that didn't cross my mind initially until everything was in there together, I had to loosen my sway bar and rotate it just a tiny bit to get it to be able to reconnect without having too much tension on it. On this side, I am just now getting started. Got the top little thing in there with the coil and the shock, and I'm gonna have to connect the rest of it and hopefully get this knocked out relatively quick. Day 3, the fronts are both in there. Day 4, less talking, more working. Day 5, well, yesterday I was able to get all of the rear out, and I'm currently putting the new shock in. Today everything should go back in and we'd be ready to put it on the ground. So on a little side note, this is gonna go into the coilover video as well. I ordered a diverter valve spacer on ECS tuning as well, and I'm trying to install that in right now. This was a pain in the butt to get out. Coming from the top, you can't see the bottom 2 bolts, so I had to cut up my fingers a good amount, just like every other person on YouTube says. Was not easy, was not friendly, but this is it right here. And this spacer is going to sit right on top of there, like so, and bolt back in there somehow, some way. I'm not going to record myself struggling, so I'll go back to a video. It is sitting an inch higher in the front than it is in the rear. The rear is just tucking the tire, and the front has about a 3/4 of an inch gap from the front tires. I wanted to match and go lower in the front, but they highly advised me not to, just because the lower I go, the more camber I'm gonna have. It's a -2 degrees camber right now in the moment, and if I was to go that extra inch, it could have been -2.3, which is nothing major. It's not huge, it's not the end of the world, but just for the better part of my front tires, I didn't want to go that route just yet. And being that these are the factory wheels, and I'm not going to worry about fitment until I get my new set of wheels. So with fitment, everything went bolted up perfectly. There was no issues with how it all went together. They fit perfectly. They have held together. They've done great. My truck rides stiff. It is a 95 base model 2-wheel drive Tacoma with an added leaf in the rear, and that added leaf pretty much makes the rear ride like bricks. Now when you're on the highway driving down the road, any bump, you are sitting there riding like bouncing, and that is an uncomfortable ride. It is not fun. So when you hear the stigma of, oh, you're gonna get coilovers, well, it's gonna ride like shit.